When the tornado struck Joplin, I was actually a certified storm chaser with the National Weather Service out of Springfield, Missouri. So I had not only a huge interest in weather, all kinds of weather, but a huge interest in news and news reporting.
Wow. So at what point then, you know, a lot of people say they didn't know something serious was going on until it really until it hit, or maybe a couple minutes before.
Right.
Did you have a sense that something pretty serious was coming?
I'll explain.
A good bit before.
That happened, yeah. So I was watching on my radar app this storm begin to develop in western Cherokee County, and the storm just grew to a humongous size. One of the biggest supercell thunderstorms I've seen in this area in decades. And as I was watching this on my radar application, I knew it was making a beeline right for the city of Joplin. And at about the height of the storm on the radar, when it was showing a tornado vortex signature, that's about the time that the National Weather Service issued a tornado warning.
Were you at home?
So when the tornado actually formed and touched down, it touched down in my field. We've got 10 acres, and the tornado actually first touched down towards the back of our acreage.
So you live on the west side of town then?
At the time I lived right at 32nd and Central City Road, which is where the tornado touched down. It touched down on the south end of my property. I did not actually see the tornado touch down, but what worried me was a particular sound. It was not a sound like people originate with a tornado. Most people say it sounds like a freight train.
Right.
That's not what I experienced.
What
really scared me, the point where I actually began to get scared and go inside and go towards the basement, was when I heard a sound that was like a waterfall. Like if you were walking towards a very large waterfall, it's getting closer and closer, and that sound of the big waterfall getting louder and louder. That is what I heard. Of course, that was also the very large hail, but more so the winds from the tornado. When I heard that sound, which I'd never heard before, it stirred up something in me that said, you need to get down to your basement immediately.
Wow. Was your home damaged?
So because the tornado touched down where it did, our home was not damaged. However, we did receive significant tree breakage. We were very, very lucky compared to the nearly 170 people who had lost their lives and the thousands of people that were injured and all those who had lost homes and businesses. We were very lucky that that tornado for us touched down where it did.
And this area that we're in right now, and we should say because there's noise in the background, the Memorial Half Marathon, 5K, 10K, it's just winding up, so that's what the noise is. And that's how I met you. You're a journalist out here reporting on this story here. This area we're in was very heavily hit, wasn't it? We're by Cunningham Park. Across the street is at Mercy Park. And this is a very heavily hit area here.
Yes. So the tornado took a path along 32nd Street, basically right along 32nd Street from Central City Road, where it touched down. And it grew very rapidly from the time it touched down. It became an F1 within touching down. Not but a minute later an F2, a couple minutes later an F3, F4, and then eventually an F5. So the path of the tornado went right along 32nd and then curved over towards 20th Street, right along 26th Street. Took that path and curved over towards about 15th Street before reaching Range Line, where it did the most damage when it was in EF5 at that point, with winds, I believe, near or over 300 miles an hour, completely damaging very heavy structures and ripping up asphalt.
And that's where the photos come from that we see of the Home Depot, the Walmart, the Academy Sports, and that.
Yeah, when the tornado reached its peak of an EF5, winds of 300 miles an hour, it was at basically the worst location it could be in Joplin, right at range line and 20th Street, which is the business district of our city.
Right.
It destroyed some of our major businesses and caught a lot of people off guard, because a lot of people don't realize this tornado, this massive mile to a mile and a half wide tornado, was wrapped in rain. You could be approaching it and not even know you were approaching the tornado, and a lot of people actually did do that.
Wow. Just a couple more questions. How long was it after the tornado touched down where you lived as an F1, it gradually becomes an F5, how long was it before you actually began to see some of the serious damage that had taken place? Was it that day? Did you go out that evening, or?
So after I felt it was safe to go outside and kind of survey our yard, our area, I wanted to check out my town, the town I grew up in.
Sure.
So I got in the car and kind of just drove around the areas that were considered to be more safe, not necessarily as damaged as it was around range line at 20th. And just in those areas where the tornado was growing from EF3 to EF4 stage, around, at the time, what was called Mercy Hospital.
Right.
What I saw was something that will stick with me forever, and in fact, it gives me nightmares.
Can you describe that a little bit?
When I reached approximately 26th Street and Maiden Lane, the images I saw in that location are something that will stick with me forever, and in fact gives me nightmares to this day. I saw things that no one should ever have to see.
Just the physical destruction?
Not only the physical destruction was something that I witnessed, but the emotional destruction. People screaming for their loved ones, people screaming for their animals, people just in complete panic and absolutely bewildered by the event that occurred. The look on people's faces is something I'll also never remember. It was a look of just blank stares.
Wow.
Blank stares everywhere.
Wow.
People probably wondering what just happened.
Yeah.
And where do I go from here?
What did you do in the days after?
In the days and weeks following the EF5 tornado that struck the city of Joplin, there were several things that I did to help out with the community. I offered to help some of our close friends that were affected by the storm by cleaning up their yard and removing debris and things like that. Also, I served food to first responders, to those who come in from across the country, through my church, just little things like that, and doing things in ways that I felt I could serve, that would, give people maybe hope, give people something, something besides just destruction to look at.
Just a massive response. Last question. Behind us we have the banners flying. As part of the memorial run, the banners have the names of the 161 residents of Joplin who died. As a lifelong resident of Joplin, when you see those banners, what does that mean to you? What does that signify to you? I mean, besides the obvious, obviously, the loss of them, but what else comes to mind?
As we know, the tornado killed nearly 170 people, but there is one name in particular that sticks out, and his name's actually on one of those banners behind me. His name is Will Norton.
Will Norton.
He had just graduated from high school the day that tornado struck and was on his way back home with his dad when they drove into the tornado. Will was sucked out of the SUV and was found days later in a nearby pond.
Wow.
That, of course, you know, everybody affected by the tornado, everybody killed by the tornado, deserves to be on those banners.
Yeah.
But there's just something about Will Norton, who had such a great life, great potential ahead of him. Someone who just literally graduated high school
that evening.
That evening.
Yeah.
To lose his life in one of nature's most dangerous weather events. That name sticks with me in particular. Mostly because of those reasons.
Well, I'm going to go find his banner now. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.